Hi, welcome to wheatgrasskits.com. We've got an instructional video today on how to grow your own organic wheatgrass. What I've got here on the table with me is the contents of our organic wheatgrass kit, minus of course a couple of trays of grass that are already grown, just to kind of see what the final product looks like. And we'll come back and take a look at these. We're going to have another video in our series about, in this series of instructional videos about harvesting and juicing wheatgrass, but for now we're going to talk about how to grow it. So let's take a look at what we've got in our soil-based and extremely popular organic wheatgrass kit, which is available at wheatgrasskits.com. We've sold, I gotta say, tens of thousands of wheatgrass kits over the years, and we know how to do it. We started out with a greenhouse growing wheatgrass to sell to health food stores and juice bars in the early 90s. And we have grown thousands and thousands and thousands of flats of wheatgrass. We've experimented, and this kit that we've put together is basically bulletproof. It's very, very easy to grow wheatgrass. If you've looked at our videos on how to grow microgreens or how to grow sprouts, sprouts are pretty easy. Microgreens are a little more difficult, take a little bit more tending. Wheatgrass, if you do it right, if you follow the technique, almost impossible to screw it up. So we'll talk about the process, but let's take a look at first what comes in the organic wheatgrass kit. First thing is we've got 2 5-quart bags of certified organic growing medium, topsoil, potting soil. Now this is just regular potting soil, other than it's organic. You can, you know, if you need more, there's dirt. You can use plain old dirt available in most backyards around America. And of course you can take a look at, you know, regular potting soil that you get from garden supply stores, that kind of thing. But we've got enough here to get you started. We've got a nicely laminated instruction kit that shows you step by step how to grow wheatgrass, and we'll follow through those steps here in just a moment. And we've got our published book. This is written by us. It is 22 years of detailed information and knowledge on how to grow wheatgrass. A lot of information in there on sprouts and even some info on microgreens. So that's included in the kit. We've got several growing trays. You'll notice that these do have drain holes, although we'll talk about pros and cons of that. And there are 5 pre-measured bags of certified organic wheat, and that is pre-measured, the exact amount that will fit in a tray, so you don't have to worry about any of that. And of course, lastly, we have a 12-ounce bag of azomite. Azomite is a natural trace mineral fertilizer. It's super fine ground trace mineral powder, and if you fertilize your tray of wheatgrass, and you can use that you can use it in animal feed. We have a lot of people who use it directly as a supplement. You can use it for lawn and garden, that type of thing. What it does is it infuses your soil with 67 different known trace minerals that are ideal for optimum health. So that's how you get the healthiest possible wheatgrass and the healthiest possible juice. So that's what comes in the wheatgrass growing kit. Now what we're going to do is we're going to kind of step by step go through the process of planting your first tray of wheatgrass, so I can kind of show you how that works. Now the first thing you want to do is we want to soak our seed. So I've got about not quite a quart of water there, and it's cold water. You definitely want to soak in cold water. Tap water is fine. If you've looked at our videos on growing microgreens, or growing, well, microgreens specifically, you notice that we talked a little bit about pH balancing the water. Microgreens, because they're going to be watered and they take quite a few days to grow, you know, typically 8, 10, 12 days. Growing microgreens is a little bit more, they're a little more sensitive to the pH of water. Wheatgrass, not sensitive at all. You can use regular plain old tap water. You know, it doesn't hurt you to pH balance the water if you like, and again, you can look at a video on our YouTube channel on how to pH balance water, but with wheat you don't need to do it. So you take that guy and you're going to soak that wheat probably, you know, between 8 and 12 hours. Once you're done with that wheat, then let's take and drain it in a regular colander, and maybe leave it in the colander and rinse it periodically, maybe you know, once every 12 hours for the next day or so. One last little troubleshooting tip, which the likelihood is you're not going to have trouble with, but if you do, one of the most common difficulties in growing wheatgrass is that every once in a while you might end up having trouble with mold. So what that basically means is, as you look down here, right at the base where the seed and the wheatgrass is starting to come up from it, sometimes you'll get patches of mold in there. That is typically an environmental issue more than it is an endemic issue with, with seed or anything else. If you are in a warmer, humid climate, typically you might end up having a little more trouble with mold, and it's fairly uncommon, but you do have issues with it occasionally. If you're having trouble with mold, you're noticing a mold issue on your wheatgrass, not included in our kit, but available on our website, is mold control. And all this is liquid grape seed extract or grapefruit seed extract, and it's kind of suspended in a glycerin medium. And this stuff will keep your mold at bay. So if you're noticing mold coming up on your next and future soakings of seed, just take a dropper full of mold control and put it in your soak water, and that'll take care of the mold. You shouldn't see any of that anymore. The stuff is fairly potent, and a soak in the seed with that should solve the problem. Here's the result of wheat that's been sprouted. You can see here the nice little root tendrils that are growing out of that guy, and those are a little bit longer than we would normally let them grow. Those have been soaked about 8-12 hours and then rinsed in a colander and allowed to grow where it's nice and cool. And every time you rinse, be sure you rinse with nice cold water. You don't want to rinse with warm water. Now, long story short is once you've got your seed sprouted, it's ready to go ahead and plant in the tray. Now let's talk about how to do that. So I'm going to grab here our tray, and you can see the tray has drain holes in it. Now there's a technique you can do without drain holes. You've got to be a lot more conscientious in watering to not overwater. The cool thing about the tray with the drain holes in this case is impossible to overwater it because it'll regulate itself. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some of our soil here, and let me grab this guy that's already been opened up a little bit. We're going to take a little bit of our soil, and what we want to do is we want to put a nice even distribution of about 1 inch to 1.5 inches of soil in this growing tray. So once you've got your bed of organic potting soil down there, and again fairly flat, not compacted at all, you can just flatten it out more or less with your hand. Before we sow our seed, what we're going to do is we're going to take some of our azomite trace mineral powder, and generally you're looking for about 1/4 cup. Would I bother to measure it? Nah. You just want to eyeball it a little bit. And it's real fine powder, so be aware of that before you start here. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to sprinkle a nice layer of azomite over the top of the soil here. And that's going to ensure that our wheatgrass is going to pick up as much trace minerals into the actual plant, which will make its way to the juice. That way we've got the healthiest possible wheatgrass juice around. Without this step, wheatgrass is still going to be great, still going to be good for you, it's going to look healthy, but it's not going to have the mineral potency that this azomite will help us do. So from that point, we've got our tray prepared and ready to be planted. So we're just going to take, again, our sprouted wheat, and we're just going to kind of spread that nice and thickly. And again, remember, we're looking at a pre-measured amount. That's our pre-measured amount. That is the sprouted amount that's in one of the pre-measured bags. And all we're going to do is just kind of gingerly spread that sprouted wheat seed over the surface of our soil, about as evenly as you can make it go. Just nice to, just eyeball it, it'll be fine. And once it's nice and evenly spread, then we're ready to cover this guy up with our paper towels. So we'll take about 4 layers of paper towel. You can also use newspaper, works fairly well. But about 4 layers of paper towels, and just cover the seed up directly with paper towels, piece of cake. There you go. And now we're ready for our last step, which is what? Just give it a good soak. Now, as you might imagine, there are drain holes here, so that can be problematic. So what do we do to cope with that? Well, your best bet is to take it over your sink and give this guy a good soak directly over the sink. Now what you're going to do is you're going to let this guy grow until the sprouted wheat, the baby grass, starts to lift this paper towel above the edge of the tray. As soon as it does that, you're ready to go ahead and take that off. Okay, so here we are at the sink. We've got our tray of now planted soil-based wheatgrass. We're ready to go. We've got it covered with a couple, 3 or 4 layers of paper towel, and we're going to give it its first soak. Always, always cold water, and no big deal. Now remember, this tray has holes in it, so you would definitely want to do it over the sink. Give it a good solid soak right over the sink, and then you're going to allow that guy to drain for quite a while. And just let it drip dry. You want to soak that paper towel, again, pretty thoroughly. Now, because this tray has drain holes, it is impossible to overwater it. It's going to regulate itself, and if you can look right down here, you'll see that that's starting to drip through nicely. That means the soil is getting to exactly the right level of saturation. Let that drain until it stops dripping, and then you can move it to a counter. Now, if you want, you can always nest that. If you're a little worried about runoff water on your countertop or whatever, you can always check us out at wheatgrasskits.com. We have some trays without drain holes, and you can nest that right in the tray without drain holes to catch any water that might continue to leak after you drain it. No problem. After you have soaked this, you want to come back and re-soak it, typically at least once a day, maybe twice a day, and make sure that this paper towel stays nice and damp. If it starts to dry out, again, the root hairs on your seed are going to dry out, and you're going to get less than an ideal crop of wheatgrass. Once this guy grows up into a flat of grass that starts to lift the paper towel off, then go ahead and remove the paper towel and then continue to water it in that fashion, maybe once a day. At least give it a good soak and a drain until you've got a good healthy crop of at least 6 inches high. You can grow it up 7, 8, 9 inches high, but at that point it starts to get pretty scraggly and pretty tough. You ought to harvest it certainly all at that point. So here is some grass that is about 3 days grown, maybe 2 days grown. You can see it's quite young. The paper towel was removed off of this guy probably yesterday is when the paper towel was pulled off of this guy. And you can see it's going to lift that paper towel no problem. That causes it to struggle just a little bit as it lifts it up. Keeps it nice and damp. Now the reason we're doing the paper towel is because as the baby root hairs of the wheat start to come out, if they dry out, you're going to end up getting a pretty weak crop. So it's important as you re-water this, give it a good soak probably once a day, but make sure, monitor the paper towel and make sure the paper towel is nice and damp. If the paper towel dries out, you're going to have root hairs that dry out, and again, you're going to end up with not a solid crop. But after the wheatgrass has established itself and grown up to not quite this high, but push the paper towel up, no problem. All you've got to do at that point is uncover it and then give this guy a good thorough soak once a day over the sink. Same approach. When your wheatgrass gets to this stage, right, or not even as tall as this. This is maybe a little bit overgrown. Then you can move to harvest and juice the grass. And we'll have another video in this series that talks about how to harvest and juice the wheatgrass. So please visit us at www.wheatgrasskits.com for a full line of wheatgrass growing kits, wheatgrass growing supplies, certified organic wheatgrass seed, more growing trays. We've got trays with and without holes, and again, if you want to use trays without holes, no problem. You're going to have to be a lot more cautious on the watering of the seed, but we've got a full line of supplies. We'd love to have you visit the site. These videos obviously posted there, etc. So, thanks very much.